Okay, good morning everyone. As she said, I am from CSE department here at IIT Bombay. So I'll talk about one project which actually, even though it's uh, mentioned as education, it actually works across many domains, including education domain. After this, I'll talk about my other project, but somewhat briefly, which is Bang in the education space. So this actually you will see the progression lot more cleaner. So I thought I'll focus on this project because from the idea to execution, it goes more smoothly. So this project is called WWH. Its name is derived from the World Wide Web, which we are all aware of. It has a lot of parallels to it as well. So we want to provide help to the bottom of the pyramid. So that is why it is worldwide help. So this talk, I'll start out with what was the basic idea, then how we went about prototyping it, how we conducted field trials, what lessons we learned, and how we intend to go further. Okay, so this is at that stage where seed is done, so we are going to go to translation. So that is where we are. So what was the idea? So we know internet had a huge impact on our lives. We can't even think of a day without internet because for any small thing we rush, we Google, we search and get lot of information. There are other things on the internet. www is the World Wide Web, which is basically browsing websites. Google for searching, Quora for answering question and answers and so on. So while this is there for a lot of us who are technically savvy, for the bottom of the pyramid, it's still not reached because they have high cost of access, they can't afford the device and nor the connection, and more than that, even if they were able to, it requires a digital literacy which they lack. You require, even now, even us, sometimes when we Google, there is so much information that comes that we cannot make head and tail of where to focus. So that is the problem we started out with. What if internet were to be provided to the bottom of the pyramid, what form will it take? So how to provide easy and cost effective information access. So towards this, naturally you have this idea. Before you implement this idea, you should be clear what the requirements are. You can't generally start working with something without understanding who wants what. So within this ecosystem, there are two aspects. One is people who want information and someone who has to provide information. That is the problem of information access. So if you look at the information consumers, since we are targeting the bottom of the pyramid, these are not very tech savvy. So giving them a device, internet access won't work. They are most comfortable talking with someone, so it has to be a voice over a computer use. And they are poor, which means it has to be a low cost solution. So whatever voice you are doing, it has to be either some toll free or missed voice call model. So that is with respect to consumers. Now information providers, because it's a voice call, you could for example have solutions where when someone calls, there is a recorded message that will just keep telling a lot of information. But that is not personalized. Whatever is there may not be your question. So, a lot of information needs, you have to be customized for a specific person. So, given that the information provider should be some crowdsourced savvy volunteers. These could be part of an NGO or government workers. And this is also a very important criteria because so for example, if you are looking at let's say providing advice on, let's say in the education space on what career counseling is, there are a lot of people who can provide that advice, but they may have a regular daytime job. They won't sit, and this is not their main thing, that they may want to volunteer when they are free. So they should be able to help only when free. So it's not that because these experts have other careers, and when they help, they don't want to reveal their phone details as well. So imagine everyone, suppose your phone number gets revealed to this huge number of people, and then they'll just keep bothering you with more and more questions which you want to handle at your pace. You just don't want to get bombarded. So that is so you require this privacy support as well. So these are some of the requirements we started out with, and based on these requirements, the kind of architecture that arose, I will also briefly mention just to show that the kind of trade-offs one has to consider. So whenever someone is calling, we call it query registration. They have a query, they have to register their query with our system. Here there is a cost versus flexibility trade-off. In other words, IVR is, you must know, IVR is when you call, it says press 1 if you want for this, press 2, that is the IVR system. If you are providing this IVR, definitely it provides better scheduling, there is a toll-free support you can provide. But typically this means that whoever is launching this helplines, they have to pay for this service from some provider, IVR provider. It tends to increase the cost, but it makes it more flexible in terms of scheduling. You could also go for a missed call model where someone just gives a missed call and someone will call them back, in which case there is no cost, but it limits your scheduling. So there are all these trade-offs one has to figure out when one is coming up with the design. Similarly, that is for registering the query. Resolution is where someone is calling this crowdsource, whatever, is calling them back and providing information. Here also you have lot of cost versus flexibility versus speed. In other words, do you directly connect a caller to this helper, or do you assign it as a task? Okay. There is anonymity also has a cost. If you want to preserve anonymity, some third party has to come in which acts as a middleman, so that this phone number, that phone number is not revealed to each other. You have to go through a middle party. That also will cost. So there are all these issues when you are trying to provide the service. Similarly, after the call, if you want to know whether the person who provided information has done a good job or not, even here, do you call back or do you play a voice recording and ask them to rate this caller? The high level picture, these aspects, unless you understand the design well, you may not be able to relate. But the high level picture which you should get is, when you are designing itself, there are lot of trade-offs, lot of options that are possible, and you need to make sense of which is the right option to implement, at least in first stage. It may be that you decided to go with this option and later you decided that maybe this is not the right option, I have to change, but at least at the first cut you have to make some call as to what you have to do here. So with all these trade-offs, with the architecture in mind, even before we started prototyping, it's good to get some feedback. So what is the merit of this idea? So in this particular case, because it's a technical thing, I've talked to a few of my colleagues here in computer science. Because it is in the social sector space, I also talked with some faculty in HSS and TIS. This is the Tata Institute of Social Sciences. And lot of helpers come from NGOs, so I also spoke with a few NGOs just to get a sense for whether this idea, am I missing something, is there something I should improve upon. So some feedback came from them. Overall they felt that the idea was good, so then we decided to prototype this. Remember, when we prototype, when you get an idea, typically you will have lot of very interesting things you want to pack into it. Like you can do this, you can do call recording for later quality inspection, you can do SMS support. So many things you can think of when you are doing. So a tendency among academic whatever people is, they get carried away by this novelty. They will think, okay, let's pack it, make it feature rich and start building something which is very feature rich, which also tends to increase the complexity of the particular platform, which is a very bad idea. So this KISS principle, everyone knows what this is? No. KISS principle, yeah, keep it simple, stupid. In fact, that is what it says. So basically this says, don't complicate life, because you don't know what requirements arise out of field. So build a bare bone, keep it simple, and then based on what requirements come, then you refine your system. So a lot of things should go through iterations. You don't just start with something very complex. So that was the idea there. So we did build this very simple architecture. So just so that the idea is clear. So this is how things work. This is a consumer who is low literate. We are just saying a phone, this need not even be a smartphone. They call our helpline, and when they call, they listen to IVR, press some choices, and these details come to our server, and we assign it as a task to a volunteer. These are the helpers. These guys need an Android phone on which our app sits. So they can accept the task. So normally what we tend to do is we assign it as a task to 3-4 people, hoping one of them will accept. The moment one accepts, we remove the task from others. So once they accept the task, we know that they have accepted the task, we revoke it from others. Whenever they are free, it doesn't be that you may have accepted the task at 9 AM, you are free during lunch break, so 1 PM you can make a call. So in that app, you can press call in the task, and then you get connected to this person and they both have a conversation. He will ask what question, you will give an answer. You don't know the answer, it's still okay. Find out the answer through whatever means, call back as many times as you want and give that information. Once you feel you are done your job, you complete the task by answering what question was asked, what answer you provided. This 7 is an optional thing which we implemented, but we didn't really use it extensively, is to collect feedback whether this question and answer provided was a good question and answer or not. Is the end client satisfied with this question and answer or not? So that this is essentially the architecture. So this itself, when we design, because we are in computer science, this is a software, it's very important to follow certain principles. We went for a modular design because at that time itself we were aware that the concept is that there are many such helplines. So you may launch one helpline for, let's say, nutrition support, another helpline for career counseling, another helpline for diabetes, another helpline for financial advice, law advice. It spans any domain that is possible. So you will have many such helplines where a lot of people will come wanting to set up these helplines. You have to have a modular, but then there is also a need for customizing something for a specific person. Some may say, I want this type of scheduling of tasks, where do round robin or do based on some other category, do language based. So it depends that each person will come with their own criteria. So it's very important that certain paths be common, certain paths have to be customized, and the way you can do it is only through a modular design with a configuration that supports plug and play. So basically when you are setting it up, you say I want XYZ, accordingly it will set up. So that is the design we followed, and naturally we also wanted to build a dashboard so that you can monitor these helpers callers, how many are calling per month, what is the response time of these helpers, in other words how fast are these helpers answering those questions, so on. So this is the basic thing. Now that the platform is, bare bone platform is built, you need to now approach people to make them use your platform. So before you do that, there are two other things which you need to know. One is, what is how good is your platform? You have to sell, so you need to convince people that these are all the nice things about this platform. So you need to come up with a list like this, which is basically the advantages. So it is very cost effective because there is no cost to the consumer. They often call this toll free number or only receive calls. The provider who is setting up this, these helpers can work from home, there is no need for a dedicated call center and so on. It is very accessible because it is based on voice calls. This is delay tolerant because volunteers can help when they are free. It preserves anonymity because it goes through that middle IVR. It is a very generic design, it is easy management. So you just come up with these kind of good features and tell them that, okay, this is what our platform supports. Apart from this, there is one other thing you need to know, which is, this is my platform, the advantages. What else do you need to know before you go? Not business model. Business model will, you need to know who your competitors are, what are they doing, how does your platform differ from what else is out there. Okay, because they will ask, fine, I have this other solution, and if you don't know what that is, you will get stumped because they will say, oh, this also does it, then you don't know what to answer. So, you need to understand what others are in this space are also doing. So, this is the related work. So, there are some social sector companies within India called Gram Vani, Awaaz De. They do similar stuff, they do but pre-recorded. There are no humans in the loop here. It's not crowdsourced humans, they just pre-recorded, but this is very inflexible. There are crowdsourced humans involved, but these come in the form of apps and websites. It's not through a voice based system, so these are not accessible to the bottom of the pyramid. Call centers in fact come closest to what we are doing. This I will cover later when I talk about business proposal, how one can take it forward. So, for now you should have a clear idea of who your competitors are. Crowdsourcing is basically apps. So there are these apps. So, for example, there is this app for example, this specific research work, they do cigarette, you want to quit smoking, they provide help for that. So, you install the app and you chat with someone others who acts as a counselor guide to you and advises you, no, you can do it, whatever, some kind of coaching like that they give. But this is based on an app, a smartphone app which we install on your smartphone. I am saying these type of solutions are there, but they don't target the bottom of the pyramid because the bottom of the pyramid does not have a smartphone nor the digital literacy to type in and get that information. They are only comfortable talking, which our solution is. Okay. So, now that we understand, we have a prototype, we understand our competition, we understand what advantages our solution itself provides. So, naturally you have to go get some people on board for them to start using this solution. So, for this, to begin with, we wrote to a few NGOs because this, as I said, in the social sector space. We talked with a few professors for contact. We also approached some IITB student bodies. Overall 9 people we contacted, out of which 2 showed interest. So, one was this Ma and Sishu Poshan, which is basically was looking at tackling malnutrition problem in India. So, this is a pediatrician, Dr. Rupal. She works with a lot of tribal women and she wanted to provide nutrition support, in other words, for the child, for the mother during pregnancy and so on. This one, Abhyuday, is a career counseling. This is actually a student body within IITB that does social work, where for municipal high school kids, they specify what career options are there after their 10th, after their 12th and so on. So, these 2 people, we weren't, as I said, we weren't very picky here. We just chose whoever came. And based on this, their use, we wanted to refine and then go out much larger into the world. So, one nice thing about this was these 2 were very involved right from the beginning. We had about 6 months of discussions and refining with lot of critical feedback they had provided. So, while they were using our system, there were bugs that came up which we resolved. They said UI should look like this, the UI is the usability, how should the screen look, what features, where should a button be, all those are UI related issues. So, based on this, we actually improved the system. So, this is the second iteration after our bare bone. So, just to give you an example of the kind of advice we got. So, this nutrition group also had lot of video material that they have, because sometimes to tell something to a mother, like for example, they also provide breastfeeding support, to how to hold the baby. All those also they had to show. It's not easy to explain with words. You actually have to see it in action to be able to. So, they had lot of video material in this, and they wanted to share this video material to the user. Again, as I said, tribal women, though it may not quite work out, but at least if someone nearby has that URL, they can show it to them. So, for that we incorporated an SMS support, where we after the helper calls, they will send the URL as an SMS to this caller and they can see this material. One other thing that came about, which was very important, in fact, there is a very nice feature in the system, is a hierarchical helper model. So what this means is within this many of these groups there are some people who are experts who but have limited time, and there are some who are not so much experts but we have more time to spare. So when you are taking calls, you always let the non-experts in some sense take the call, and if they can resolve it, they resolve it, but if they are not able to resolve it, for example in this nutrition group also, if it's a premature baby, some of these people may not know, even if it's a doctor, they may not quite know how to handle a premature baby. There are certain other expert doctors who can handle it. So what we did in this case is, while the first helper may call, find out it is a premature baby, after that they can reallocate the task to some other expert. So then that expert can call back. So this is some hierarchical helper model. This also came about where sometimes you have to follow up, like you said, okay, the child is doing well, but let me call after 1 week to see if what I suggested had any improvement or not. So this is the follow up task. So this also we provided. As more and more people started using our app, we realized that they needed some tutorial for onboarding. They also wanted local language support. So many of these things I'll just we've covered enough. So these type of feedback came from the field, and based on this we implemented all these as well. So this kind of shows you the app. So these are the tasks. This is an accepted task, this is a new task, this is a follow-up task. Once you click on this accepted task, you will see this call button. If you call this, you can call, and once you do that, you can fill the question and answer and specify what category it came in. So this is some of the parts of the, so all this I'll just. So we did 4 trials. The first 2 people who came on board, by this time 2 others also joined us. So overall 4 trials we did. One is this IITB student body, as I mentioned, they mentor municipal high school kids. So what the volunteers, which are the helpers in their system, they recruited from a local engineering college and trained them themselves. They got a huge response, 150 plus students volunteered. So they got them here, got them trained on what kind of question and answers to give, and then we started this helpline. The second, this also I mentioned, malnutrition. These were mostly nurses, nutritionists. They were trained by Dr. Rupal. They were about 20 plus, and this was the helpline that we set up for them. As you can see, these are all toll-free numbers. This is also a toll-free number. Recently we changed it to toll-free. So this is with an NGO called BIFE, which provides livestock advice, expert feedback on how to manage livestock. Their volunteers are their own staff. These are, as I said, NGO. The 4th trial is again within IIT Bombay. This is done as part of the Dean Student Affairs, where the seniors guide the juniors, first year students who come in on academic curriculum, scholarships, tutorials, all that. So this is basically all the volunteers are the senior students. So this is within this. Recently, it's not listed here, we have a 5th trial set up for autism support. So a lot of parents whose kids have autism, they can call this helpline to get some help on behavior, who are the counselors, or just general advice on how to deal with a child who is having tantrums or that type of. So that is the 5th trial, which very recently we launched. So this is the operational statistics. So this is the helpline. CGH is career counseling. This is mass issue portion. So this is over a period of about 8-9 months. As you can see, not many calls, but some activity is there. One of the biggest problems many of these people face is they have volunteers, they are ready to work, but the number they are not able to popularize. They tell, so this thing also shows. So for example, this is kind of their usage per number of calls per week. You get high calls whenever there is some advertisement in workshops and all, but then it fizzles down. There is no, so at most 5-10 calls on average, you hardly get 3-4 calls in a week. Some rare times it kind of spikes. So this is a big problem with some of these people, because they are just not able to advertise.
They have been trained on, for example, if you talk about the autism. So these volunteers have been they have been employed. Practically, they have approached the.
Yeah, so no, I'll just tell you one other insight which probably I should have emphasized. So, whenever we come into the picture, we come as a technology providers. We do not recruit helpers because, as you can see, the helplines can span so many domains. Where do I have the expertise or the reach to recruit competent people who can help in that particular domain? As you saw, four are so distinct that I cannot find people like that. So, the way we approach this thing is we are just technology providers. We approach entities that work on field. So, for example, BIF is a agricultural NGO that already has doing lot of work in that space. So, we approach them and say this is a solution which you can use internally to manage your things better. It is their responsibility to hire these helpers, train these helpers, ensure that they are doing a good job by monitoring what they are doing. Whatever is required technically to support this in the form of dashboard, or for example, if they want to pay them some money, tracking how many calls a volunteer is made, all that technically we provide. But we don't get into the regular operational of any of these helplines just because it's not possible for us to do.
Yeah, but I felt like because of the fall in that number of calls, that may be related to this kind of, because dealing with the autism child.
No,
it's
that is the mass issue portion.
No,
not
that's okay. But dealing with the autism child, it's really like you need some experienced person. Like your mother can feel like how the child behaves, everything. Okay. Apart from that, she also able to manage something. But apart from her experience, there may be something which will.
No. So this AFA group is a very, you can look it up. It's a pan-India group that is in Delhi, that they have wings all over the country. It's a very big NGO. In fact, the first one who started awareness of autism, and they have a huge network of doctors who deal consultants. So it's a very big NGO which wanted to use it to provide support to parents, both, like for example, if you call them, they will tell you who is the nearest counselor. If they want, for example, some occupational therapy, they will be able to guide you on within your where to go to. Or if you want to talk with other parents who are also having, sometimes it's good to vent because it's a very demanding thing, right? So you want to talk with someone who is in the same situation. It's not for advice, nothing. It's just to, okay, I'm in the same boat, you are in the same boat, let's. So some support like that. So this is the kind of support, though they, of course, as I said, it's their responsibility to ensure that whoever they are getting on board as a helper should do the right job.
Many times there is a problem of making them well trained on this particular field, and then the employee, they are not doing actually. That may be sometimes a failure.
So, I mean, one other, see, as I said, these groups are very local and small, this mass issue portion. That is why they don't have outreach. But if it's already a big NGO like BIF or this AFA, which already has a huge network, there I feel the calls will be much bigger. We have to see. As I said, at least we hope it will be big, because these are very local ones who are trying to do something, but they haven't really scaled up yet. So here are some of the question and answers. So as I said, after someone finishes a call, they are supposed to answer this. So this is just to give a sample, and this is also to tell you the kind of calls that come for in terms of the categories. Okay, this, as I said, that autism is already done. These are some of the other which we are currently talking with. Sneha is for women empowerment, this is for health and social justice. UNICEF, at least the lot of district states where malnutrition is a big problem, they want to use our solution for providing counseling to mothers. So we are in talks. So this one is another faculty in IIT Bombay who was an IAS officer, who was a district collector of many of these things, but he is now a professor here. He has lot of reach in all this, so he has been pushing. So it hasn't started yet, but we are headed in that direction. Okay, so we have some field trials going on. and then naturally after the field trials, it's good to know how well your solution is doing. So, evaluation is very important. Evaluation can be quantitative and qualitative. Quantitative is basically telling, so for example, how many calls are coming, in what category they are coming. A part of it I already showed you. But this is a very important metric, which is what is the response time. Response time means once I assigned a task to a helper, when did he call first? So, from my time, so it basically a task has been assigned, when did you start, at least start beginning of the task. So, that is the response time. If you see this Ma Institute portion, less than 1 day, about 60% of the calls are getting done, it's not too bad. Whereas, if you see this career counseling, even 7 days, majority of the tasks are not getting done. So, this particular, as I said, is a student run body. They hired all from all these engineering colleges. The students came very enthusiastically at the beginning, but they did not sustain that enthusiasm going forward. The point to make here is the success of a helpline or a failure of it is also a very good function of the helpers that are being hired. While this is doing fine, this did not do well. Okay, so they themselves realize this, that generally getting students on board is not, so they have to really ensure that only really dedicated students come on board, and they are trying to figure out internally how to make it happen. Again, as I said, we are only technology providers, internal management is up to there. So, we just guide. If they say we want this feature to track something, we provide that feature. But this qualitative assessment also, we did lot of telephonic interviews, about 40 participants among these. We called many people all across pan India, a lot of them from 10th pass to master's degree. When we do this, we basically did something called thematic binning. So, this is again very in general education, in the academia, people expect you to do this type of thematic binning, though in real life maybe it's not required. Just to give you an idea, so you basically analyze all these interviews and say what are the themes that are emerging. 5 themes emerged. Why do you need this platform? Sub themes are client needs, reachability, lack of resources. The codes are like this. Again, you don't really have to understand all this, but I'll just flash it and show a little bit, which basically tells some of the need is basically that people feel awkward, they are more comfortable talking. This has a wider outreach where there is no internet as well. There are not enough information sources, so this is yet another information sources that will solve the problem. Similarly, what are the good things about the platform, what requires more improvements. This also we got, but overall response has been very positive. In fact, everyone who used it had mostly good things to say. They said it's simple, can call anytime, that type of thing. Client's perspective also, yeah, so this for example is a negative. They said delay should be less, got a call after 2 days. But as I said, that is not quite a technical shortcoming, it's a shortcoming of the helpers that they have. So, one other thing we asked is why do helpers get on board? All these helplines, there is no payment, they all come out of intrinsic motivation to help. So, that is what was showing, love helping, self-motivated. Training, most of them already either they were provided training or they had prior training itself. Again, sustainability, in fact, this is a very important thing. So, a lot of these entities who come and set up, we ask them how do you intend to sustain. I mean, we are providing the solution. If you want to use it, in fact, you have to pay us money as well in the longer run, but how do you intend to sustain it? It is a big problem. So, for example, a lot of these NGOs, they themselves don't have money, and now for them paying is a big problem. So, they say maybe government should fund, and helpers are a big supervision, incentivizing, we have to pay them as well. So, ideally if it is low cost, maybe there is hope, but if there is no cost, then it is tough for them as well. Okay, so this is kind of the feedback that they had given. I'll just, Okay, so what did we learn from all this? We continue to prefer the technical role, which I mentioned, in that sense that we don't want to get into this middleman where we are gathering helpers for people just because at least that it will not scale for us. The NGOs, at least we interfaced with, they are too small, their reach is poor. Not just that, it is very important for them to get good volunteers, and there should be a dedicated manager who is managing these volunteers. Even when our solution is cheap, they still have cost issues. By cheap, I mean based on our solution, per monthly cost, if you have a toll-free number, it can be anywhere from 3 to 5,000 rupees per month. If you don't want a toll-free number, it can be like 1,000 rupees a month. It's a very low, I mean, of course, this one is operational cost. I'm not telling the software costs because that we are not yet selling. But that is the kind of cost we are talking about. Even with that cost, it was not very easy to convince these people. So these are all, as I said, these are not technical. We did keep our costs quite low, but still with the NGOs it is a. So based on whatever we have learned, our future plan, if you see, there are two sectors that we can target. One is the social sector, another is the commercial sector. In social sector, these are NGOs, but we realize that smaller NGOs, it's tough because they don't have reach nor the pockets. So we want to target more bigger NGOs. And one other thing is government organizations, because this kind of information dissemination is fundamental to any government activity. You have lot of schemes, pension schemes, loan schemes, farmer, this, that, and for all this they have to reach out to the rural population, and if you provide an easy, cheaper way to reach out, they should be interested. So we also want to focus more on government organizations. So this is basically to raise awareness where they want to provide information or collect information. As we went ahead, we also saw that there is lot of potential in the commercial sector also if you pitch this solution as a replacement for call centers. There are tons of companies which employ call centers, and this can be a cheaper alternative to them, but we really need to dig in here because they may have very complex requirements which our solution may not satisfy. So you have, for example, we are in talks with some of these guys to see if it will work. So here I'll tell you what the pitch is between a call center and our solution. Typical call center has dedicated space, whereas we can work from home. There is no need to invest in space. Space means you have to pay rent. Here you require desktop, server, switches, LAN, lease lines. This is super expensive, whereas here we are dealing with smartphones with internet. Both are pretty cheap. Desktop may cost 30,000, this will cost 5,000 rupees. So it's a big cut. And Jio is now like crazy. It's unlimited data, whatever, with very limited cost. So this is also very cheap. In a call center, you have to hire people for whom you have to pay a monthly salary. Here we pay per task. And this was also a very important thing because oftentimes when you hire there, you hire based on your peak load. If you are getting so many calls, you will say, okay, at my peak rate, how many callers should be employed? Whereas because it's asynchronous for us, you don't need to hire it. People can, you just queue everything up and one will handle one by one the tasks. So you just pay per task, which turns out to be a lot cheaper than a monthly salary. So this is basically time spent you are doing. Here idle time also you are paying. There is no redundancy. Here you can tap a larger crowd for redundancy because you are just paying per task. This is again one very important feature. Here if there is an expert who has a full-time job, he is not going to sit in a call center and attend to calls. Whereas here we can recruit helpers because it comes as a task to them on their phone and they can help when they are free. So overall we believe our capex and opex is low. Again, as I said, this is still at the seed level. In other words, the idea, it's been a journey of 4 years, but the first 1 year we didn't do much. Then it caught on. Tata Center has been involved since 2 years after the initial prototyping. Technically, we are pretty confident. I mean, we are from a technical institute, so this we don't have any issues with. This is what is more challenging, the outreach and the business side of stuff. We are in this exploratory and iteratory phase. We have done a lot of interviews, lot of potential. We have a sense, as I mentioned, we have to target in the social sector a certain way, in the commercial sector as a replacement for call centers. This is also very important, which unfortunately again is very tough, because for us students come, students leave. There is no and all, especially in CSC, all the students also have very high paying jobs. They graduate and they get a big chunk of salary, they are not ready to take risks. And this entrepreneurship is a risky proposition. So for them to do that is a little bit of a problem. So that finishes my first project. If there are any questions, I'll take. Then I'll move on to the second project and talk about it. Any questions? Okay, so let's move on. So this is the second project which is funded by Tata Center. I'll be pretty brief about it. So this is called the Bodhi Tree platform. There are 3 faculty, all of us are from CSE department. So why did we start this project? So this is kind of the outline. Anyway, we'll get into this. So the motivation for this particular project is captured by these quotes, which says something like, 95% of engineers in India are unfit for software development. Only 5% to 25% of engineering students are employable. And our own experience in conducting, even with very high gate scorers, when we gave them some programming based screening test, only 35% passed. So this is the current state of affairs in the country, and we as teachers, we were quite passionate, all 3 of us, on what is it that we can do to solve this specific problem. So just to kind of digging into a little bit more. So within this ecosystem also, again as I said, it's important to understand who the players are within a given ecosystem, who you are trying to target. So here there are students, there is industry and there is academia, and each face different types of problems. Let's look at industry. Industry is that, well, this is telling the solution approach, but let me talk about the problem. Problem is that they want certain material which is not being taught in colleges, and whatever certification that happens in colleges they don't trust, because you don't know how, what, if someone may say they got 90 marks, but did it really get 90 marks, is there really worth, or maybe through cheating, whatever they have gotten, we don't really know. So that is the problem these guys face. If you look at students, the problem students face is something like, there's lot of rote learning that happens, there is no conceptual explanation, and they also tend to, so if you really look among student population also, it's only the top 5% of the students who go out of their way to gain extra knowledge. Average student is whatever is taught, whatever he is not going to push himself. So with respect to students, basically the quality of their learning is low, and thereby they have placement woes, they cannot get placed. And if you look at academia, lot of the teachers that get hired, even including IIT Bombay, they don't really have teacher training. There are certain professors who are excellent in their research, but you get them into a class and ask them to teach, the students are clueless as to what they are teaching. They just cannot really, I mean, not all can be good teachers. So that is another, and another thing which I have heard from talking with many teachers is that the load on the teachers is also quite high in the outside colleges. Often a fresh graduate who is just graduated is given some 3-4 subjects to teach. As it is to teach one subject, to gain that level of expertise to be able to teach well itself is like you have to spend considerable amount of time, and now you are saying not just one, teach 3-4 subjects, and it's not, I mean, I cannot, even here in IIT Bombay, even when we have experts, When someone asks me to teach something which I know, but to teach at that level where I can motivate students to get them excited about the subject, I cannot do for many subjects other than my research area. So that is the typical tendency for whatever teachers. So here the teachers face these type of problems. So our idea was to see what is it that we can do to solve this problem, and this is where we came up with this solution. So Bodhitree is the platform that has Tata support. SAFE has government support. I will briefly talk about it, but so this is a system which will help conduct exams basically. So our solution was that you take some input from industry for syllabus, and if you do a certification through SAFE, you can also give them some guarantee that these exams are good exams. We get quality teachers who are very good teachers to create content, and this content is published on Bodhitree, where students can use this content for self-learning. Importantly, even beyond this, our focus is mainly here for instructors to use this content when they teach. So let me just get into a little bit more detail. So let's start here. So what is the underlying concept here? We have been using textbooks for quite some time. I mean, in fact, all of us, it dates to 2nd BC, in fact, that's when the textbooks had come about. So when I say textbooks, it's not printing press, I'm talking about writing on that palm leaves and stuff like that. So that is kind of when things have started. So if you look at any current tech, they have migrated to some kind of PDFs and stuff, but what we believe the future is what we call multimedia books. So what is a multimedia book? You are following a textbook. Textbook has chapters, sections, end of practice problems, so on. So this is very similar. This also is organized as chapters and sections, but a section is made up of what we call interactive videos. This interactivity is a very key component. I will get into what it is. It has practice problems that are auto-gradable. It has reference material, animation, virtual lab exercises and so on. So it is compared to a textbook, it is a much richer version of a regular textbook, where this interactivity and feedback is the crucial aspect. So what do I mean by this again? So when we teach in a classroom, there is certain way we teach. We tell something, we ask questions, students answer those questions, there is a discussion around the topic, and then you guide the students along a certain direction. So this is what happens in a classroom. We wanted to capture that in class teaching into this book, which we call multimedia book. So how is that done? So this brings down to the core of what Bodhitree is. What is Bodhitree? We view it as a publisher of high quality multimedia books, where the textbook's text is replaced by interactive videos, which are based on what we call Socrates model of teaching. So if Socrates model of teaching, Socrates used to ask some questions, students answer, and then you guide. So that is the video emphasis on concepts and thinking. So this interactivity is achieved via, while you watch the video, some periodic quizzes pop up and you can answer those questions, and then some feedback also comes. Accordingly, you proceed further. So that is the thing. Textbooks have end of chapter problems, but now these are replaced by auto graded practice problems. So even here, if there is a practice problem, you are given 3-4 attempts. First attempt, you may get something, it will give you some feedback. Second attempt, you may succeed. So, and it will tell you these are the marks you got for this. So that type of auto graded, and importantly, which is kind of missing in many solutions out there, is what is called hands-on learning, which is lab support, where for a lot of programming based assignments we do auto grading. Even labs that cannot be auto graded, we provide an easy interface for manual grading of these labs. So that is what Bodhitree is. Bodhitree itself can be used as Bodhi book. These are for self-learners. These are very similar to MOOCs, Coursera, edX, all that, where there is some video content you watch, you can discuss with peers, you can track progress and so on. Importantly, this is what, let me just click here, this is our main contribution. From the beginning, day one, we in fact started at the same time as all these MOOCs, edX, Coursera. They focused on students. Our focus has been on instructors from day one. So what is the idea here? as I said, we view ourselves as a publisher of books, not as a MOOC. When you publish book, instructors, for example, when I am teaching a course, typically what I do, I say, okay, these 2 chapters should come from this textbook, these chapters should come from this textbook, like that, and I will tell the students to follow. So this does something very similar. You can pull book content from multiple books and create a course specific book. And once you create a course specific book, you can manage students just like in Moodle, like you can enroll students, you can tell them watch videos to watch, are they watching the videos, you can facilitate discussions, you can conduct exams, labs, you can share marks with them. For example, mid-sem final, whatever happened in a proctored setting in a classroom, you get those marks and you can share them so that they only see their own marks, not their friends' marks. All this is in one platform, an integrated learning platform that takes care of all this so that it will reduce load on instructors with more interaction for students. So when you do this Bodhi class, you may have heard of flipped classes. Everyone knows flipped classes, right? So it's not necessary that you have to use it as a flipped class, but if you use it as a flipped class, it gives a lot more additional functionality. So it's been designed for that type of stuff. So again, this is the basic idea. We prototyped it as well. And then naturally the second step, as I said, is before you go out, you need to know what the advantages of your system are and what the competition is up to. So what is the problems that instructor face? They often rely on all this multiple Moodle for content quizzes. Typically when videos come, they provide YouTube links. Piazza is another tool which is used for discussions. Labs, there's not much out there. And in addition to this, there are MOOCs such as edX, Coursera, which NPTEL, but there is no support for instructors in any of these platforms. Well, edX is open source, you can install it, download it and do it, but the installation is a major pain is what I have heard. And as I said, these are all retrofits for them. So these are some of the issues with these. Bodhitree on the other hand is a comprehensive solution. Think of it as a one-stop solution for all instructor needs. You don't need all these multiple products. Unlike these MOOCs, it is for instructors. So that's the basic idea. Again, reiterating, it's a publisher, targets instructors, it comes with lab support. And for us, this was very important for us. The instructor's presence is very important in student life. And you have to work with instructors so that this book which you are using as a textbook, you replace by a multimedia book which becomes part of the curriculum. So from the student's perspective, it is not additional work. So what often happens with this edX and Coursera is they have to do it on top of their syllabus. Then only the handful 1%, 5% who are super serious tend to do those subjects, and the remaining 95% are still at that 5% employability rate. You are not really uplifting the average student in the country, and that is the goal. If you really want the average student to do better, whatever interventions you are doing, it has to be part of the leverage. You have to leverage institute resources and then do that. So that is one of the main things which we started out with. So fine, we built this platform, we understood related work and advantages. So the next step is, let's take it out for outreach. So let's see how it has fared here. So for a long time, somehow when we started out with this project, at least we were building, it's a very complex platform. It has, so far I think some 100 students must have worked on it over the last, this is the usage, it dates back to 6 years. Tons of students have worked on it, but the perfectionists we were not ready to take it out yet until it was really perfect, where we were quite happy with only in recent last 1 year is where we felt yes, it can be taken out. So we have been using within IITB for a long time, about 20 plus courses have run on it. We also run a MOOC version of it and did some other where about 12,000 participants pan India have been using it for content. Recently, as I said, in the last 1 year, we have improved our outreach a lot. We conducted 12 workshops pan India for teacher training, where we tend to train teachers in how to use the platform. We also conducted recently in just June a 2-day workshop where we handpicked some 60 teachers based on other programs they have attended, whom we know are very sincere. We got them here, we trained them, and out of these we asked how many want to use the platform. Not just them, in fact this number now is at 75. They got their colleagues also on board. They are all going to be using it. It's a very high hit rate, which we thought we'll approach 6. If 10 people use, we are happy, but it had a very high. In fact, we are getting more and more requests that to use this platform. So what are the future directions? So in the financial, the business proposal, whatever that comes into this is operating in the educational sector. At least my reading into the space is, if you want to make money by selling something, it's not going to work here. Unlike my previous project, at least there is a commercial entities, organizations who are paying for call centers may be ready to pay. Here, lot of these colleges, especially where you want to improve, are government colleges or like so typically we doubt if they will pay for this kind of platform, especially when there are other alternatives. It may not provide as rich a functionality as us, but there are other tools, open source tools. So this also, our future direction, at least in this space, is to open source it. Once you open source it, and it has become very popular because it's a very rich platform that is doing a lot of interesting features it is providing. We believe that the industry will start to give us CSR funding, and we ourselves have created quite a lot of quality content. This can be used for some certification programs where through SAFE, which is our other product, which conducts cheating-free exams, we can leverage that to do some certification. So this will be our source of funding, is what we are expecting, because we doubt if we can make money the commercial way. So towards this, we already have some quality multimedia books already prepared by faculty within IITB, but as I said, there is a lot of NPTEL content which you may be aware of, but this content has not been designed as a multimedia book. You know, it's just that someone recorded, dumped there are 1 hour long videos, there's no interactivity, nothing. In contrast, when we have ourselves created a lot of books which are very interactive, but there are very few. In CS, we just have 5 or 6 books. So we felt going forward, maybe we should just leverage this content and modify it to make it interactive. So that's this is for quality content, so that when you have many of these books published, then more and more teachers will start replacing their textbooks with this type of multimedia books. In the process, naturally, we have to do more outreach and training. That's what we have been trying. In terms of software itself, it's been done within the academia by a lot of students. It faces robustness issues because it's not professional coders that are done it. Students come, code something, go away. So we have been trying to improve upon robustness, improve upon scalability. So for example, within IITB, every semester there are about, so for example, CS 101, which is our programming, runs on this. There are 500 students who simultaneously access this platform for programming assignments, which are very intense, load on the server. So we have been looking to see how we can scale such that at low cost, without investing in too much hardware. Naturally, friendliness, user friendliness is also very important when you take it to the outside world. Anything which is buggy, don't know what to do, people don't use. So this is what we are working on in the future direction. So yeah.
Suppose someone wants to learn programming.
Yes. So, so as I said, one of the nice things about this platform is we have lab support. It supports both auto and manual grading. Auto grading is where, for example, if you're teaching programming, we in fact over the last 1 year put together in C, C++, 200 lab exercises. which are available for teachers who want to use. These are there as part of the platform. And the way it works is an instructor creates these labs by pulling labs from this question bank of 200, and he publishes these labs. So when student comes, they have to write their code. They have, in fact, it is there in the platform itself as an editor. You can just type in your code in the editor and just say submit and evaluate. It will run against the test cases and it will tell what marks the student is getting. And all the instructor needs to do at the end is download the mark sheet. So that is the support it has. Yes, yes. So as I said, I mean, if any of you are interested in this platform, just write to me. I will, if you want to use, as I said, it's a
Spoken tutorial.
yes, Kannan. So spoken tutorial is, yeah, they are basically done lot of recordings and do. As I said, we came from more from an engineering perspective, like replacing engineering, or rather engineering colleges, the teachers, the kind of subjects they teach. So that has been our focus. So spoken tutorial content can also be hosted on this. There are a lot of stuff you can host them, and so in fact the nice thing about this platform is it's not that you have to use it with our books. You want to, we provide instructor interface where we just give you the interface, you can assemble, you can upload your own videos, or if some YouTube you are getting 10 videos, you download them, upload them, create whatever structure you want for your course and do. We are not saying that use with our books, use with your own books also. Yes, so one of the nice things about this platform also is, let's say someone is teaching a particular subject and there are 3 people within your institute which typically teach. Just 3 of you get together, spend some time, maybe few months, assembling such a book, and then once you assemble it, you can just save that book as a tar.zz file, share it with whoever you want across India, whatever it is, any like other colleges, whatever it is you want. And all they need to do is upload that and they get the book on the platform. So it's a very convenient. So one time you do that effort, you will reap its benefits, not only you when you do next offerings, anyone within the community who you want are ready to share your book, you can pass it to them. I just thought I'll show you the platform, but I think the internet, this is it's connecting. Anyway, as I said, if you are interested in the platform, there are a lot of colleges that are on board. You can also join. So, yeah, just write to me and I'll give you access and you can explore it. First slide. Yeah. So that is what, so we need to, instructor accounts are given only as in with our knowledge. We don't let people sign up, but you can sign up there as a student. You just sign up there as a student, and when there are a lot of courses. So we have courses that are open, courses that are moderated. Moderated courses you cannot enroll because the instructor doesn't allow, but there are some open courses also. If you search for something called SCR, string, SCR, which stands for Smart Classroom, SCR string among all courses, any of the SCR courses you can enroll. Those are open courses. Yeah. Oh. There as a student, but I'm saying as an instructor, you can upload your a CSV file which carries all your student. It will enroll, it will send them emails, give them how to log in, all that it does. People can also sign up. If you don't want to do that CSV, you will say all your students sign up and you tell what the name of your course is and they can enroll, and you can control again whether to let them in or not by ticking saying I want these, I don't want these. That is also permitted. Yeah. It is a very feature, whatever you can think of, I think it's more or less there because it's a 6-year long, I mean I've been using it. It came out of my own personal, whatever I felt I need as an instructor is more or less there. Any other questions? Okay. Huh? That is what I wanted to show, but the problem is that no, this thing. Okay. So as you can see, these are the chapters. Each chapter has sections. In a section, there are multiple videos. So this will pop like that, which you can answer. It's okay. I mean, so this is whatever video content. You can do this. You can also see lot of practice problems that are auto graded. So you can, for example, it's around. So these are the kind of.
It means like index we have in the book, you have made index
Yes.
for videos.
So basically, this is the multimedia book that is there. Sorry.
So where we.
So this is all the book content. When you deal with students, you basically put a schedule like this. You'll say between this time, you have to follow these sections. This time, do these sections. You impose a schedule like this for the students. So they can click here and directly go there as well. You can, for example, share marks. Marks I have to show. So for example, this is, you just upload a mark sheet here. Of course, this is instructor interface, so I can see everything, but a student will only see this row, their own marks. Things like that. So for example, you can also see how the students have done with respect to. So these are all, as I said, those out video, in video quizzes are there. These pop up while you are watching the video. This is practice problems at the end. You can see how the students have done. That type of a thing. And of course, there is a big discussion forum here itself, as you can see. So you can.
Course related discussion.
This is all like, as I said, mini threads are there. This discussion you also can see within a specific section also. So for example, within this, specific to this section, there is a discussion. While you are watching a video also you can discuss. That is also very important, nice feature, where while you are watching a video at that particular point in a video I don't understand, I can start a discussion thread there. So whoever will get to see if they click on that, it will take them to that position in the video where you have a question.
Discussions is between the students.
Yes, discussion is across teacher. It's like the
Yes,
entire
teachers
course,
are also-
teachers,
teachers
everyone
are
is there.
also-
So this managed course is like you can enroll students by just clicking CSV. So these are all the students that have already enrolled. You can re-register them, you can email them if you want.
Students are showing interest in it.
Yeah, this is very, I mean, when I run course in this, it's very popular. I get very good feedback from students because the students like it because it's they can watch videos how many ever times they want. They can watch when they want, which is
When they
typically
are
at
free.
1 p.m., 1 a.m. in the night. So that is what they prefer, and this gives them the flexibility. So the students, so for example, you can add TAs to the course.
And regarding the subjective question,
Yeah, subjective questions are not auto graded, but still you can provide them a
whether
way
they can
to.
submit in this platform.
Yeah, they can
only.
submit, but they're not.
In
I'll
text
tell
format.
I'll
Text
tell you that
format.
as well. So for example, you want to email all the students, you can email them with announcements. You can
Grading
see.
is possible when the questions are multiple choice. Or
Yes, but we do have this, which shows you.
It is easier in programming board, but
Yeah. So for example, these are programming. Of course, I had socket programming, so you can do that. But this is a manual. I will show this as well. So for example, this is a manually graded lab where you are telling something and you are asking some questions here, and student can answer. Type it, and this TA can grade
Great.
by going one by one. So that
How it is different in Google Classroom?
नहीं, गूगल क्लासरूम में बहुत लिमिटेड फीचर होता है, बहुत ज़्यादा लिमिटेड.
I think same as
No, so you can make videos over there,
video lectures cannot.
and you can't
There are
control
many, I mean, as I said, this
there
has
are many
been
different.
tons of features all
Yeah.
in one place you will get.
It is like
That is the-
integrated things.
I'm using Google Classroom. for
Coursera
3 years, last 3 years.
But
But
it
it
is there,
don't have these
but
features.
as an instructor, you want to use it. You cannot get an instructor account. How will you
They
get an
select
आप
their own.
list
Yeah,
control
yeah.
नहीं कर सकते.
And their target is students, their target is not instructors. You want an instructor account,
उसके
so
बाद
as I
वो
showed you an
video देख
instructor
रहा है कि
account,
या
you just
control
come
कर
with your
सकते हैं.
MP4s, that also I'll show you. So as an instructor,
empowering the students.
इसमें कर सकते हो.
Huh?
You're empowering the students.
Yeah.
इसमें quiz डाल के
in
video
the,
डालना.
so for
They can
example,
they can learn.
तो वो
Nowadays in our college there is requirement of OB based evaluation and
see for example, when you come as an instructor, you just have to choose the video and just upload it. And it will save the video. I'm saying as an instructor, you will get all this. You just
all the
download, you upload.
titles and
Not just that, you can also, for example, there is also already this video. You got an MP4, you want to interactivity at, let's say, this particular point. You just do this, you select that you want to insert a quiz, you give some whatever title and then add. Then you will get this, yeah, you can just add the quiz here. I mean, this level of, yeah.
it means a user can create his own.
Yes,
quiz.
yes. So that is what I'm saying. That
Yeah,
I don't think you will
functionality
get
is not there.
anywhere where Coursera edX, they will give you student. As a student, they'll say explore.
Yeah.
But as an instructor, you want to do this. Adding your own content, adding your own material. That no one does. So this is what Moodle does it. But Moodle is
Moodle
not, as I said, not as sophisticated as user-friendly as this. That's the
You can have tie-up with the colleges so that they load.
Yeah, but that is what we are doing. So we are,
at least we
again,
can
as I
tie
said, we started out with the reason for empowering. It's not that we want to make money out of it. So if
Yeah.
any college that is ready
So
to
do we need to pay something for this?
no. Tata Center is
Okay, Tata Center.
Tata Center is currently funding this project, but as I said, they'll fund only for some point. After that, by the time our hope
Actually,
is to make
you-
it very popular, then we can go for CSR.
You have to manage your servers for all the contents and provide. So
It is not it's a lot of expense.
you can keep some. You can
And
keep
so
some
edX
license.
and Coursera, they are running as $1 million. We have been running this within IIT with just students and hardly any recent support from Tata.
You can keep some licensing fees or whatever.
Yeah, we have to
registration
see,
fees.
but we personally think the sector doesn't pay. So we don't trust that they will pay. I think our is more
No,
charity
but
work.
if you have some collaboration with AICT or like that,
That is what.
then they can.
Either government
AICT
also
go
won't
on.
pay just because they have invested in Swag.
See, as in NPTEL, suppose someone wants to write some exam in NPTEL, they are getting certification. Likewise, is there
That
any
is what. So that one of the other things. Once we do this, then we can start
Then
some
you can-
certification programs also based on this.
You collaborate with Swayam.
that will help?
We when they don't want. We, in fact, before Swag itself, I said we will just take it for free.
They have Chennai.
We said, I don't know, I mean, we built like ready to whatever, pay and corporate to build it from scratch. I said, we already built it, we want to open source it, it's there with all these features, just take it. It's all, I think there's a lot of politics there.
Ego problem.
I have no idea what it is. So they were not, so we decided to go.
Otherwise, it is also another IIT, so they will.
This also what, I mean, this was built through government funding only, no? And this is all students, who are they getting? The students are getting scholarships from the government. It's in some sense through government, with the majority of all the work that they know, Tata Sons-
They can add this functionality in their platform.
That also, you know.
Anyway, we can use it.
This group also. This also.